What if nobody stopped Eren? What if Mikasa never made that choice? What if the Alliance never reached the founding Titan? What if the rumbling just kept going? Every single wall Titan, hundreds of millions of colossal Titans, flattening every country, every city, every living thing outside Paradise, until there was nothing left. So today we're asking the question every AOT fan has thought about at least once. What if Eren actually won? And trust me, the answer is a lot more complicated than you think. So let's quickly set the scene. In the original ending, the Alliance, Mikasa, Armin, Reiner, Jean, and the rest, managed to reach Eren inside the founding Titan and stop the rumbling before it completely wipes out humanity. Mikasa kills Eren, the Titan powers disappear, and the world survives, barely and with around 80% of the global population already gone. But in this version, none of that happens. The Alliance fails. Maybe they never reach Eren in time. Maybe the airship goes down before they get there. Maybe Floch and the Yeagerists stop them completely. However it happens, nobody stops the rumbling. Every wall Titan completes its march, and humanity outside Paradis is gone. All of it. So what happens next? The first thing that happens when the rumbling completes is the wall Titans stop. They've fulfilled their purpose, the threat is eliminated, and they just stand there. Eren is still alive inside the founding Titan, and on Paradis, the Yeagerists are celebrating. Floch is probably giving a speech. But here's where things get complicated immediately. Eren releases control of the founding Titan. The wall Titans begin dying, because without an active inheritor commanding them, they have no purpose. Here's something people forget when they imagine Eren winning. The rumbling was never Eren's final goal. It was a means to an end. His real goal, the thing he actually wanted, was complete freedom for Eldians. And freedom doesn't automatically come just because the outside world is gone. Think about it. Paradis still has 800,000 people, political factions, military power struggles, and a group of Yeagerists who just watched their leader commit global genocide and are now the most powerful military force on the island. Floch and the Yeagerists now effectively control everything. And Eren, who just wiped out 80% of the world's population, is not exactly in a position to play the role of peaceful leader. The people of Paradis are split. Half of them are celebrating. The other half are horrified by what was done in their name. And that tension up between those two groups becomes the biggest threat Paradis has ever faced. Not from outside anymore, from within. Now let's talk about Mikasa, Armin, Jean, Connie, and the others. In this timeline, they fail to stop Eren, but they're still alive, and they come back to Paradis as something really uncomfortable. War criminals. At least that's how the Yeagerists see them. They actively tried to stop Eren. They fought alongside Marleyans. They literally tried to kill the person the Yeagerists consider their savior. Floch wants them executed immediately. And honestly, in this timeline, he has the political power to make that happen. But Eren stops it. Because here's the thing about Eren that people always underestimate. He never actually hated his friends, even when he pushed them away. He was doing it to protect them. So Eren uses whatever authority he has left to keep them alive. And that decision, protecting the people who tried to kill him, is the first sign that winning the rumbling didn't give Eren the peace he was looking for. So let's talk about what Paradis actually looks like 5 years after the rumbling. On the surface, it's thriving. No outside threats. Unlimited resources. The entire world's technology, food supplies, and infrastructure belongs to them now. The Yeagerists run the military. Historia is still technically queen, but everyone knows she has no real power anymore. And Eren, the man who made all of this possible, is the most isolated person on the island. Because here's the tragic irony of Eren winning. He wanted freedom for his people, but the version of freedom he created is just a different kind of cage. Paradis is safe, but it's also completely alone. No trade, no diplomacy, no outside culture or ideas coming in. Just 800,000 people on an island. Armin says this to Eren directly in a rare moment they're allowed to speak. And Eren doesn't argue. And then there's the Titan problem. Remember, the curse of Ymir didn't disappear just because the rumbling succeeded. The 9 Titan powers are still respawning into Eldian children across Paradis, which means the cycle of Titan inheritance, children eating parents, 13-year lifespans for shifters, all of it is still happening. On an island with no outside enemies. So what's the point of the Titan powers now? The Yeagerists want to keep them, maintain them as a show of strength, even though there's nobody left to threaten. Armin and the Alliance argue they need to be eliminated, find a way to end the curse of Ymir permanently. And Historia, quietly, carefully, starts working toward exactly that. She starts building a political movement, using the one thing the Yeagerists can't control. The people who are tired of military rule, tired of the guilt of what happened to the outside world, tired of living in a paradise that feels like a punishment. And 5 years after the rumbling, Historia triggers a political revolution that nobody saw coming. Not with Titans, not with violence, with a vote. So here's what the world looks like if Eren actually wins. The outside threat is gone forever, but the internal struggle, the guilt, the political power fights, the question of what to do with the Titan powers, that takes generations to resolve. Eren himself lives out his days as the most complicated figure in Eldian history. A hero to half his people, a monster to the other half, and somewhere in between. Just a tired young man who wanted his friends to be free, who got exactly what he asked for, and discovered that getting what you want doesn't always feel the way you imagined it would. That's what happens when the rumbling succeeds. Not a happy ending. Not a tragic one either, just reality. Complicated, messy, human reality, which honestly fits AOT perfectly. Subscribe to Beyond the Plot for a new What If every week. Next video, What If Reiner chose Paradis over Marley. See you there.